an informational program. Today in the news, parliamentarians are discussing the strategic budget of the new union. In Baku, people are saying goodbye to the victims of the aviation catastrophe in Nagorno-Karabakh. Yeltsin's visit in Germany is continuing. In Moscow, today they've opened a women's labor market. Should Union troops be in the Baltic states? So, good evening. The 7 most developed countries in the world have agreed to delay the payback of the Russian or the Soviet foreign debt. The negotiations have just been concluded, and today we will have an exclusive interview today in Moscow with the chairman of the Inter-Republic Committee, Ivan Salayev. Ultimately, there is such a principle. If you want to achieve something, you have to find yourself in a hopeless situation, and that's exactly where we are. So, like it or not, if the Western countries want to get their money back, they have to help us out and work with us in reorganizing the most basic areas of our economy. Later, during the program, you will be able to learn about Mr. Salayev and hear the interview with him. We're going to have strict economy in the country, and this was the call of the parliamentarians in our country. We are united in our view that there is no other way of reducing the deficit. There's only a little more than a month left to the end of the year, and the budget for the fourth quarter has not been determined yet. We're trying to push through here the budget, but this is a painful process for the budgetary structures. They can't even count on credits because there are no guarantees that they could pay back the debt. The Republican and Union deficits amount to 300 billion rubles, and expenditures are double income. That's why the deputies here at the parliament have called for tightening of belts. In spite of the official denial of the confrontation taking place, the president, confrontation between Yeltsin and the parliament, nevertheless, the parliament rejected his latest proposal on reorganizing the bank system of the federation. According to the proposal, the banks would be directly be subject to the republics, and the Supreme Soviet could not agree. The parliamentarians also had something to say about the rare stone and gold fund of the country. We are having so many difficulties now that we are unable to even decide what to do with the wealth which we have received from many generations which preceded us in our native country. To improve the conditions of preservation, precious stones and gold, President Yeltsin issued a an order determining the conditions under which the national treasure would be protected. This was discussed at the Supreme Soviet, and the general sense of the ruling can be summed up as following. We don't need gold and diamonds for a dictatorship of the proletariat, but for the benefit of the people. Who up till now has been in charge of those gold and precious stone items that we have? I can't say. We had party organizations and the supreme organization in the country. And of course, there was no real control that was exercised heretofore. Moreover, we used these diamonds for technical purposes. We sold them abroad in instruments, and they would dig them out and sell them as decorative diamonds. This has been a squandering of our national wealth. And now we need to inventory everything that we have, no matter whose interest that encroaches upon. The Russian parliamentarians adopted a resolution saying that from now on, the Central Bank of the Russian Federation will be the only body which would be in charge of monetary policy. And the main goal here was to strengthen the ruble. The bank was entrusted by 92 on the basis of a technical basis and its other resources to cope with the situation and carry out a reorganization. We don't have any comment on this situation as of yet, but I think we'll have very many in the very near future. Today, Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev finished his visit to Kyrgyzstan. He said that he was confident of conducting his reforms in a union of independent states. In Irkutsk, people are concerned both about the union and about Russia, and are concerned with preserving them. Today, at the second half of the day, he arrived to Bishkek. The head of the Republic, Askar Akayev, met him in the airport. In the capital of Kyrgyzstan, there was a meeting with Gorbachev with scientists. And these are the results of his visit. This was his first trip after the coup. His popularity has not diminished. The same crowds that met him here as in '85, but conversations are more intense. So here he listened more than he spoke. He promised almost nothing to anyone. In his evaluation of the situation, he generally agreed with local authorities. Now we have a process of forming new forms of life, and this gives us a sensation that the ground is literally moving underneath us. Before approving the passing the new agreement, he confirmed that he was still convinced of the necessity of a union of the former republics, and he could see here a favorable attitude toward giving the Irkutsk Oblast an autonomous status. Of course, within the course of one visit, he cannot possibly have resolved all our hopes and satisfied them. So we attempted to place to him questions that were within his area of competence and no more. And what do you think? As the head of government, on a local basis, who is it more useful to you, for you to talk with? The president of the USSR or of Russia? Without doubt, this is the president of the Republic of Russia. The president has left, but the people remain behind. Today in Baku, there was a memorial ceremony for the people in Nagorno-Karabakh who died when a military helicopter exploded on the 20th of November. Here is a political meeting which took place. The 20th of November will be written into the history of our country as a sad chapter. From all parts of Azerbaijan, we have people arrive to honor the memory of those who died. We've had a 3-day memorial period declared. We have ceremonies in all the churches, the mosques, and the synagogues. Here we see a memorial which will always have fresh flowers placed at it. Now from Yerevan, the Armenian government in its declaration expressed concern with the efforts of certain circles to make the situation in the region still more complicated. Although the probe is only yet now begun about the military helicopter, the escalation of tension is still taking off between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now I'm quoting the statement from Yerevan. This does not correspond to the interests of the peoples and the republics involved, and we hope for positive changes. in the relations between the republics. Late in the evening today, but we have to realize that Armenia is 2 hours ahead of Moscow because they're trying to save energy because of their own energy shortage. We have a worsening of the situation after the explosion of the Mi-8 helicopter over Nagorno-Karabakh. We've had the gas blockade, and now we have another railroad strike. We don't have any loads arriving by train, and we have and in addition, we have the arrest of the train crews who have been taken as hostages. The government of Armenia insists that there be created an international commission to investigate the catastrophe. The most calm period in the last 3 months has been the last week in the Chechensk Republic. Their slogan is to establish new bodies of government and to conduct economic reforms. The former head of government, Bekov, decided to resign. Dudayev announced that he would head the new cabinet of ministers, and until